Hello. I am excited to be here tonight. Thank you guys all so much for coming out. It's wonderful to see so many familiar faces. And I kind of wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit about how I got here, because a lot of you guys have really just met in this past year, and in that time my life has really changed a whole lot. So when I was a little kid, I cared about one thing. Only one thing. Well, food was up there, but skiing was and is my passion in life. I would, instead of reading books at night, I would read ski trail maps that I collected of places I'd never been or really heard of. But I still remember the run names of someplace in Canada, of Apex Mountain, from nights of skiing, or dreaming of those maps, and I would dream of big mountains and spend every weekend possible nagging my parents to, come on, take me to the mountain, take me to the mountain, and then eventually got to the age where I could have a car and started skipping class sometimes to go skiing and spending the weekends up there, and it really was like my drive in life, and I just, from a young age, from skiing and spending time in the natural world, I knew that as long as I had skis on my feet, a roof over my head, and food, I would be happy as a clam. I would be stoked. And from now on, I got much more from that as I understood just the value that in life, our experiences and our relationships are the most fundamental thing there is. It's what makes being human the most incredible thing ever. And so, I wanted to do it all my life. I wanted to ski as much as possible and meet more awesome ski bums. And I met all these people that had made a living in vans, making friends, sleeping on couches, and skiing every day of their life. And I was like, hell yes, you can do this. This is possible. I'm gonna do it. But I was incredibly privileged to have money to go to school, and I was also really curious about the world. I wasn't so stoked on classes, but I was curious about a lot of things. So I thought, man, Western's a perfect place. There's mountains, there's people, I'm going here. It's in state and it's great. So I ended up here, and it was kind of, I had no idea what I really wanted to do. I was like, I don't want to ski. This is kind of just like a fallback plan. So I started just taking classes that seemed interested to me, and I was really interested in the social sciences and the humanities, and I followed through with anthropology, sociology, political science, looking at our history. And from a young age, I'd been pretty inspired by the history my parents told me of the 60s and 70s and what people did standing up for justice. And I was pretty interested about, how are all these ridiculous things that people are protesting even happening in the world? Why aren't people just happy and skiing? So I got really curious, and I found the college environment way better than high school, and started caring a lot about school and really learning a ton. In my winter quarter, I skied as many days as I went to class without skipping class, and learned a lot. But then in my spring quarter, I was taking Introduction to Mass Media, and that's when I really first started to really get a sense of the powers that be in this world, and sort of putting together a picture of what's going on, why are all these terrible things happening, why is no one standing up to change them, why are people just living their lives like they're not happening. And I'd also been learning about all sorts of bad things that are happening in the world, and so I knew it was like, okay, maybe I'll get a job where I'll do something, I'll give back in some way and not just ski all the time. Sort of saw how privileged I was, and how I didn't want to just, go off and run away from all these problems and spend time in the mountains. So I started to figure that out, and there was so much more I wanted to know. So I took a quarter of, kind of just wanted to learn about the whole world, but global issues, I guess you could say. So I registered for a world history class from 1500 to the present. A class called Economic Anthropology, which was sort of a historical and anthropological analysis of global capitalism, and then a class on the global water crisis, and then Applied Human Ecology, which was kind of the one sort of relief, because it was a really intense quarter. I knew the world was pretty fucked up, and there's bad things that happened, but it was like, here's all of it at once, pile it on. And so yeah, that was intense. But what was really cool about it was I was also seeing, this is all connected. I can see how it's all working, and there's all these systems going on. This is cool, but holy shit, this is really fucked up. And it was like, I was also learning through classes about climate change and everything, how interconnected that was with everything else. And my whole perspective on the future and life and what this world was going to look like really changed radically. Like, I kind of had this happy future, there's the society I can sort of milk off of and ski all the time. And I was like, this isn't, if we keep going the way we're going, that's just not going to be the case. And what I also saw, I was really down for a bit, and it came in waves, but there were times I just spent in my room just reading about this horrific stuff, just like not wanting to talk to anyone about it because I felt like I was all alone. I'm the only person in the world thinking about this or knows about it, and didn't really want to reach out. But it was when the coal issue was happening in town, and there was a hearing, the public scoping hearing, and I showed up with some friends to find 2,000 people there say, no, you can't build a coal terminal in this town. And I just went, wow, that's so incredible. People are thinking about this stuff too, and they're doing stuff about it. Wow, that's awesome. And then in my classes, we moved on in anthropology and history to how do people resist this system, and in the world water crisis, talking about water warriors and people who, when you've taken away their social security or their healthcare and everything, once you get to water, they're not just going to sit there and let you do it. They're going to fight back till the end. And I just discovered more and more of this incredible history of the amazing capacity people have to stand up to the greatest danger and odds, like the black people in the South, the black students who risked being lynched and fire hosed down and did to stand up for what was right, and women who chained themselves to fences to gain the vote, and peasants who rebelled against their colonial forces and say, no, you cannot take my land. And I just went, wow, who am I to just get really bummed about this and sit in my room and not do anything? Like, wow, that's terrible. These people are way braver than I am. And then I also saw the history of that, I have this incredibly privileged life, but I saw this history of people who have stood up, sacrificed their privilege and challenged the system that gives them the life they have because it is unjust, and stood with the brave, incredible humans of this world for what was just. And I went and I just was blown away. I was like, I want to be like those people. They totally inspired me. At first it was hard. I didn't believe, I was looking around and I didn't think anything was happening. Like, what could I do? But I knew I had to do something. And I started to really look around, and I saw that all over the world there was so much already happening, from Occupy Wall Street to the Arab Spring and people standing up for immigration reform and marriage equality. And I could see that these social movements came in waves in history, and I started to feel like, okay, we're really on the cusp of something. There's stuff happening. And then I found out about these groups, communities across the world that were doing, they were what they called transitioning, where they just came together as communities, and they saw they had, that they could do something about these problems even though their governments weren't, and started getting together and forming renewable energy companies that they owned and making a local food supply. And I said, oh my God, there's so much I can do. And I was almost dropped out of school. I had this whole plan. I was gonna write a graphic novel about everything that was happening in the world and what I thought about it, and start organizing and getting involved. And I totally thought I had to drop out of school. And luckily at the last minute I found out I could get independent study credit, and I did that. I started winter quarter. I set up 2 independent studies to start a club on campus called Transition Western to do the community-based responses, and I'm still in the process of writing the graphic novel. Been a little distracted by doing everything around town. But it was just so clear to me that as a college student, I wasn't going to wait to get a degree to start doing something about this. There wasn't time for that. And B, what college campuses were where social movements are born. So I was like, all right, let's get to work. Let's go. And then the more involved I got, I just kept getting, it was weird after that fall quarter. Normally, the 2 weeks before ski season started, my brain, you could be talking to me and I'm just I'm in the mountains, just like, oh my God, I can't wait. The fall quarter, I was in just the world, just thinking about, I wasn't even thinking about skiing, I was thinking about social change and like, how do we build movements and how do we change these things that are happening? And I just dove right in, and it has been the most rewarding experience, like better than any time I've had in the mountain. I've built the most incredible relationships with so many of you people in this room. I've had the most phenomenal experiences, whether it be building a garden with a neighbor I didn't know I had or had never met before and finding out they're the coolest middle-aged woman I've ever met, or going and meeting, like last night, meeting these people who did tree sits and snuck into corporate buildings and danced on the CEO's desk while he was there and got out before the cops came, and like, and being at like the Coal Terminal hearing, or the hearing for the Bellingham 12 who blocked the coal tracks, it's been just phenomenal. Every day I wake up like more excited to be like, yeah, there's so much we can do and it's so much fun. This is awesome. And I don't want to say, I think in the past I've talked to, like, really been hopeful and positive, and it's like, we really have inherited quite a mess. And you can't really realistically say we're just gonna start having renewable energy and fix all these problems. That's just not the case. But what I do know is that to get involved and to try to do something about it and to stand up for what's just is the most rewarding and purposeful thing you can do with your life.